You know, we often think that being good is all about good intentions or having warm, fuzzy feelings. But what if it was something more? What if it was actually a skill you could practice and get better at, just like learning an instrument? Today, we're going to build a case for ethics as a rational, almost scientific discipline, the practical skill of being human. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to build this argument from the ground up, starting with a pretty bold question about goodness itself. Then we'll root our answer in the nature of reality and work our way all the way up to what it actually means to live a truly flourishing life. So, first things first, we have to tackle the main problem head-on. Is ethics a real field of knowledge, something we can actually study with our reason? Or is it just, a messy pile of subjective feelings?
Yeah, this is really the heart of it, isn't it? The popular idea is that morality is all about feeling, empathy, compassion. You just kind of feel what's right. But let's be honest, that can be pretty unreliable. What feels right one day might not the next. So we're going to explore a different path, a system built on reason, with objective principles you can actually learn and apply.
Now, the philosophical tradition we're digging into today defines moral philosophy as a rational science. But I want you to pay close attention to that phrase, human operations. This isn't talking about your heart beating or you breathing, the automatic stuff. It means the actions that spring from our will and our reason, the things we choose to do. So in short, this is the science of doing.
Okay, but to understand the science of human action, we first have to get a handle on the nature of reality itself. Before we can figure out how a human should act, we have to establish what a human actually is, and we have to do it on a totally rational basis.
This is a really crucial distinction. We are not making up the rules of reality here. Metaphysics, in this view, is all about discovering the objective order that's already out there. Think of it like a biologist studying an ecosystem. They don't invent the laws of that system, right? They just observe them and try to understand them. That's exactly what we're trying to do here.
And this concept right here, this is the bedrock for everything else that follows. The idea is that every single being has a purpose, what the Greeks call the telos. The telos of an acorn is to become a mighty oak tree. The telos of a knife is to cut. This way of thinking argues that to really understand what anything is, you first have to ask, what is it for?
So if everything has a nature and a purpose, what about us? What's our characteristic function? I mean, what are we for?
We can figure this out with a pretty simple process of elimination. We grow, sure, but so do plants. We have senses, we experience the world, but hey, so do animals. So what's the one function that is uniquely, characteristically human? It's our capacity for reason, our ability to think in the abstract, to weigh our options and to make conscious choices.
And that leads us to a really powerful conclusion. If our unique job is to be rational, then our purpose, our telos, is to get really, really good at it. A good human life, then, is a life lived in accordance with reason. Now notice how we got here. This conclusion isn't based on some divine command or a subjective feeling. It's derived directly from a rational analysis of what we are.
Okay, live rationally. That sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? This isn't just some abstract idea, it's a practical project. So that brings us to the how-to of ethics, virtue.
This is where that idea of skill really comes into play. A virtue isn't about being stuffy or pious, it's a habitus. That's just a Latin word for a practiced, stable skill. The absolute best analogy is learning a language. At first, it's clumsy, and you have to think about every single word. But with enough practice, it becomes second nature. Virtues are just the practice skills that make acting rationally feel just as natural.
Now, the main tool for developing these skills is this idea of the golden mean. Just look at the example of courage. On one end of the spectrum, you have cowardice. That's a defect, not enough of it. On the other end, you have recklessness. That's an excess, way too much. True courage, the virtue, is that rational sweet spot right in the middle, avoiding both extremes.
So, you see, the mean isn't just some helpful little guideline. It is the very essence, the definition of what virtue is. It's the rational standard we use to calibrate both our actions and our character.
Okay, so we've been talking big picture. Now let's zoom all the way in. Let's look at a single action. What makes one specific choice, right here and now, a genuinely ethical one?
This is a really important distinction. A good outcome does not automatically make for a good moral act. Think about it. If I donate a bunch of money to charity, the outcome is good, right? The charity gets the money.
But if my only reason for doing it was to get my name on a building, well, the act itself wasn't really virtuous. What's going on inside the person is what matters for morality.
So, for an act to be truly virtuous, it has to meet 3 conditions. First, knowledge. You have to actually know what you're doing. Second, choice. You have to choose the act for its own sake, because it's the right thing to do, not for some ulterior motive. And third, stability. The act has to flow from your ingrained character, your habitus, not just from a fleeting good mood.
So here's the difference in a nutshell. A good deed is all about the external result. It looks good on the outside. But a truly virtuous act, that's an inside job. It's all about the rational intention and the stable character behind the action. This whole framework is way less concerned with what makes an action look good and much more concerned with what makes a person good.
All right, let's zoom back out. We've defined our nature, we've talked about the skills we need to perfect it, but what's the ultimate point of all this? Why go through all this trouble? What's the end game?
The goal here isn't to create some cosmic checklist of good deeds so you can rack up points. It's about something much deeper. It is the holistic, lifelong project of building a good character, of shaping yourself into the kind of person from whom good actions flow naturally and consistently.
And this is the final payoff. The ultimate goal of this entire ethical system is what the ancient Greeks called eudaimonia. Now, it's often translated as happiness, but honestly, that doesn't quite cut it. A much better word is flourishing. It's the state of thriving, of operating at your absolute peak as a rational being. That is the supreme good we're all aiming for.
So that leaves us with a final, very practical question. If being good really is a skill that can be learned and practiced, it forces us to ask ourselves, which virtue do I need to work on the most right now? What is one concrete step I can take today to get just a little bit better at the art of living well?